live on Salam Media.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Mari Mukonda Show on Salam Media. It is 20 past 11 on this Monday, the 18th of January 2021. All right, South Africa has been accused of brutality and xenophobia during the lockdown. Human Rights Watch, which investigates and reports on abuses around the world, raised issues of excessive force used by police and security officers to enforce lockdown regulations. They're also suggesting that police turned a blind eye to attacks and aid on foreigners. Joining me on the line is Dewa Mavinga, who is the director with the Africa Division of Human Rights Watch Southern Africa. Good morning, Dewa, and thank you for joining me.
Good morning, Mariam. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Thank you.
Right. So, what can you tell us about these findings?
Well, as Human Rights Watch, we established that when South Africa put in place national lockdowns to combat the global COVID-19 pandemic, one of the major challenges leading to human rights abuses was the enforcement of the lockdown regulations, where generally the police and the army in some cases used excessive force to enforce these mechanisms. And there was a primary focus on forcing people to stay indoors without looking at the need for a broader educational information campaign to bring the population to an appreciation of the gravity of COVID-19. And as a result, we saw that in a number of places in townships, there was this violation of rights, which took the form of excessive use and violence on citizens by the law enforcement officials.
Mm-hmm. South Africa has come under fire once again for xenophobic attacks as well as police brutality, and it seems like these have escalated during the lockdown. So who should be held accountable for what is happening? Who can we say, okay, it is time for you to, justice needs to be served for the actions of the police and the security services or SANDF?
Well, what is clear is that there should be an oversight body to receive complaints from the law enforcement regarding the conduct of the law enforcement officials. But there has been, a failure to hold them accountable, and also a failure or a negligence on the part of the police to thoroughly investigate and arrest those that have committed abuses related to, for example, xenophobic violence, attacks on foreign truck drivers. And there is need for these oversight bodies, for the Chapter 9 institutions of South Africa, including the Public Protector and the South African Human Rights Commission, to take a lead and ensure that in cases that are clearly documented where there has been excessive use of force and abuses by the security forces, they should be held accountable. And for example, we have the Independent Complaints Department, IPID, with the police. It has a responsibility and it should discharge its mandate and ensure that there is a stop to these abuses and there is accountability, so that going forward, you do not have a repeat of this. Because if people commit abuses and feel or think that they can get away with it, then they will be emboldened.
Dewa, I cannot hear you. The line must have been disconnected or it's not very clear. Dewa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Madam. And so I was saying that, it's really about accountability to stop a repeat of these abuses, to stop impunity, we call it.
You also mentioned on aid relief and that foreign nationals were overlooked when it came to receiving aid. So what was the situation in that regard? Who is helping foreign nationals in terms of receiving aid for the lockdown?
Well, we established that, the primary response and focus was on citizens of South Africa, and this excluded foreign nationals, asylum seekers, refugees, and a number of these COVID intervention packages, food parcels, were received on the basis that one would have to present their national ID card to get those.
Deva, if you can move around a little bit, I'm struggling to hear you. The line seems to be cutting, or probably the network. If you can hear me, please just move around a little. Deva. All right, I can't hear Deva, and I'm not sure if Deva can hear me, but I'm chatting to Deva Mavinga, who is the director with the Africa Division of Human Rights Watch Southern Africa, and they have released a report stating that South Africa, they have investigated, and the report shows that South Africa has been accused of xenophobia and police brutality during the lockdown on foreign nationals. If you have any comments, please leave them in the comment section or share them with us on our WhatsApp line. That is 0617660355, and any further questions as well. And I wanted to find out about the truck drivers and the situation of foreign nationals, and according to the All Truck Drivers Foundation, foreign truck drivers were accused of driving South African-owned trucks, and we all know about the trucks that were torched, vandalized, and they were basically calling for 80% of truck drivers to be South African truck drivers to be driven. What am I saying? They were calling for South African nationals to be the truck drivers of South African owned trucks. Dewa, thank you for coming back. I think the line is a bit of a hectic situation there, but tell us about the situation of the truck drivers and the foreign truck drivers, because according to the All Truck Drivers Foundation, they claim that 80% of the trucks that are currently driven are driven by foreigners.
Well, to begin with, Mariam, that is incorrect. In fact, the opposite is the truth, that over 80% of truck drivers in South Africa are driven by locals, and perhaps just around 15% are driven by foreign nationals, most of whom have a legal right to be working in South Africa because they do have work permits. But what has been happening is that this group, ATDF and others, have been using violence, criminality to attack, foreign truck drivers and sometimes local truck drivers. A number of trucks were petrol bombed. People lost their lives. Truck drivers lost their lives. Trucks worth millions were destroyed on the roads of South Africa. And this has been ongoing. And the biggest failing has been that of the police failing to protect the lives of truck drivers on the roads. And this has really been a huge dent on the South African economy, and it threatens, even the Durban port, which is one of the busiest ports in Africa, because if this violence continues, then there will be other alternatives. People will talk of perhaps Namibia or Mozambique or elsewhere. So South Africa needs to ensure that truck drivers are protected in South Africa because they have a legal right to be working in South Africa. And if there is a problem, ATDF and others should not take the law into their own hands. They need to make reports to the appropriate authorities. So this campaign to say no foreign truck drivers, if they feel that way, it is for the authorities to make a decision and not for individuals to turn criminal and take the law into their own hands and commit heinous, horrific acts of violence to kill people who are legally documented and have a legal right to be working in South Africa.
And I wonder, how do they know that this truck is driven by a foreign national? Because, I mean, are there any special roadblocks where they stop trucks and say, okay, let us see your paperwork. This is the company that you're working for. Okay, you're having a passport and you're working for a South African company. But no, they can't really give us answers on how they know that this truck is driven by a foreigner. Thank you so much for your time, Dewa. And how can people contact the human rights if they require any further information?
We have offices in Johannesburg, but also it's very easy to reach us on our website, www.hrw.org. That's where people can reach us. And just to conclude that really the problem is that ATDF and others are being indiscriminate. And as a result, even South African drivers are being attacked because they have no way of knowing who is a South African driver. And it's just illegality, criminality, and it must stop.
Definitely. Thank you so much for your time once again. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Dewa Mavinga, who is the director with the Africa division of the Human Rights Watch Southern Africa. For more information, you can go to www.hrw.org, hrw.org, and perhaps you can report something that you see is just doesn't seem to be clicking, and let's help the Human Rights Watch hold the relevant people accountable for the actions that is currently going on in South Africa. You can leave your comments in the comment section below or send them to us on WhatsApp. The number is 0617660355, and do stay with us. We will be back after the break.